So when I was a teenager, I was making like home movies, like with like my best friends, like with an old crappy camcorder, and we were editing it and like making like an hour and a half movies of like Harry Potter and James Bond and all that stuff. And like I always had like this like creative outlet that I wanted to do. And when I got to college, when I was a sophomore, I joined an improv comedy group and like kind of rose in the ranks on that. Like very Whose Line Is It Anyway type of, it was like short form improv. And I rose from that and like worked with the Del Close Marathon, and worked with like a bunch of like where all the SNL people come from, UCB. I don't even know if Upright Citizens Brigade is even there anymore. But I did that in college, and then when I got out of college, improv you need a bunch of people, right? So I didn't have a bunch of people, and it would like I would have to commute to the city and all that garbage, and I didn't want to do it. So I was working a terrible office job that I absolutely hated, and I turned down an opportunity to go train at UCB, which could have led me to SNL to go teaching. And I couldn't get a teaching job after school, so that was fun. It took like years for me to get a teaching job because I graduated in 2012. So then I was just kind of like I had this itch to do comedy, and I couldn't do improv, so I was like, screw it, like let me try stand up. I mean, like I already stood in front of people. I want to stand in front of a whole bunch of random high schoolers and make them happy and interested in history. So let me try it. And the first open mic I ever did, I like traveled 35 minutes into White Plains, and I it was like a random bar. It was an open mic night. It was nothing fancy. And like you had like 5 minutes, and I just wrote some stuff the day of and went up there, and it did like decently well. Like I got some laughs. So I was like, okay, like this is pretty good. And so I did I entered into like a competition at that bar. It was a stand-up competition. There was like veterans and stuff. And the winner got to open, I think I got like $150, which was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then the winner got to open for Andrew Schulz, the guy who did like at that point, I don't know if you know that comedian. He's like a big time comedian now. Like he
Yeah, that name sounds real familiar, but I don't think I can pick.
This is before all of that. This is when he was like known from like MTV's Guy Code. Like it was like way back. So anyway, I entered and I won the competition, and like that was like, wow, like that's really, really cool. And I did stand up for a while. I recorded my first album, which was really cool. I really enjoyed doing that. But it's funny because you learn a lot of lessons when you do stand up, because when you're doing a show and you're brand new, every show, it's like make or break for you. And what I mean by that is like there's so much anxiety slash stress of like, oh my God, I have to do well. Like I have to do well. I have to like, these people have to laugh, what have you, what have you. And the best story that I have from stand up, besides spotlights falling on people, was on a Wednesday night, I went into a New York City comedy club and I did an 8-minute set. This is like pretty recent when I started out. And I crushed. Like I did so well. Like people were like crying, like legitimately. Like it was one of the best sets I ever had. And I was like, damn, like wow, I am so good, right? Like got like a big head. I'd go 2 days later, I do a show at a restaurant and I do the exact same set and I bombed. Like nobody laughed. It's the exact same set, like verbatim. And there like wasn't even a giggle. And I was like, well, I suck. Like that's it. And like you learn pretty quickly that it's just another show. And I think that in terms of where things went with comedy, that translated really well for teaching, because there was times where I had to stand in front of students for 45, 70, 90 minutes at a stretch, and you have to make it interesting. And, there's sometimes, I love history, but there's sometimes where history is boring as hell. When I'm teaching like the agricultural revolution and talking about the invention of farming, there's only so much you could do, right? And like to try and make that engaging and interesting, I think that that's something that, I've always tried to do. And like that is kind of carried with me to do like stuff like this. But stand up, I mean, listen, I did stand up again last year. Last year or year before, I don't remember at this point. I think it was 2022. It was 2022. I did a show actually for UWGB. So I did a big, like an hour stand-up thing for them. And that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll do stand-up again in the future. It's just right now with everything going on, it's on hiatus.